We finally know who the Seahawks chose at pick number 16. No, they didn't trade back. Y'all saw it. They took Byron Murphy II, defensive lineman out of Texas. You got analysis from Michael Bumpus last night during the Seattle Sports Draft Show, but we're going to have even more today because you got 4 hours with us. And then Curtis and I are sticking around. We're going to bring on Brady Henderson, who's live from Seahawks headquarters. So let's get to the pick.
With the 16th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Byron Murphy, defensive tackle, Texas.
Now, Bump, at this point, every single defensive player outside of Leatu Latu, who you did like, was available. So was Troy Fautanu, who had been frequently mocked to Seattle. What was your gut reaction, immediate reaction to this pick last night?
I just knew they were going to go with Troy. I'm sitting there, I'm waiting for Troy Fautanu to pop up on the screen, and then they go with Byron Murphy. And at first, I was a bit shocked, but then after the shock wore off, I'm like, all right, well, I understand. It wasn't shock like, what are they doing? I can't believe they're doing this. It was just, I think they're going to address the offensive line. So after I calmed down a bit, took about 5 to 10 seconds, I go, yeah, makes sense to me. Leonard Williams is there. Jay Reed is there. Now you have Byron Murphy. You team him up with Cameron Young. You see how he will develop. Then you start to look at who the head coach is. He is a defensive guy. He has to make sure that the trenches are solidified. And what I see yesterday or the day before, either side of the ball, offensive line, defensive line, as long as it's in the trenches, I'm okay with whatever they do. They did exactly that. The fact that they were able to get Byron Murphy at number 16, and he was only the second defensive player taken off the board, lets you know that they probably got their guy, or they did get their guy, because Troy and Byron were available. So good for them. I feel really confident about this guy because they feel confident about him. And everything I see on film lets you know that he's a ball player, understands his position, doesn't mind taking on double teams, quick with the hands. It makes complete sense. I love the pick.
If you're wondering what that pick sound like for Byron Murphy, here's the draft call.
Hey, is this Byron?
Yes, sir.
Byron, this is John Schneider with the Seattle Seahawks. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great.
Good, man. Hey, we don't care what your agent says about you, man. We think you're a hell of a football player. We're going to select you right here, okay, buddy?
Yes, sir.
Okay, man. Come be a Seahawk, man. Hey, here's our head coach. Here's our head coach, Mike McDonald, okay?
Yes, sir.
Oh, congratulations. Can't wait to see you, bud.
I can't wait either. I can't wait to see you too, Coach.
Byron.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man. Congratulations, brother.
Thank you.
Get over Byron,
So
man.
much.
The place is going
Thank
crazy, brother. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. You excited?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm ready to get to work.
Hey,
Right.
Byron Murphy had never been to Seattle. Reporters asked him what he heard about the city during his interview with them, and he said, I know it rains a lot, to which everyone started laughing. But then he was asked, hey, I heard you're a Seahawks fan. How'd that ever happen? You're out there in Texas. Like, what's going on there? And he said, well, when I was younger, and this will make you feel 95 years old, when I was a kid, I watched the Seahawks win Super Bowl 48 because in 2013, Byron Murphy was indeed a child. And so when he was younger, he watched this defense. He fell in love with that defense. And this is how I know Byron is for real a Seahawks fan. He started name dropping not just those big names on the Legion of Boom. Yeah, he said Earl. He mentioned Richard. Then he goes, and you got Doug Baldwin. You got Jermaine Kearse. I was like, oh, wow. No, he is a Seahawks fan.
For real.
So welcome to Seattle, Byron. A nice full circle moment for him, even though he hasn't been to the Emerald City.
Yeah, good for Byron. It's crazy how things work out. Growing up, I had a team that I used to watch the Niners all the time growing up, right? Everyone in my community back home were 49ers fans, and my very first game I got to play in the NFL was against the 49ers. So I had a moment like, dang, that's I'm playing against the team that I grew up watching. And that I would assume that's at a higher level, being drafted number 16 overall. That's something like he experienced. So life has a funny way of sorting things out for you. But also what it was interesting to me with that call is that's Mike McDonald's first ever time talking to a draft pick. You can tell, like, all right,
hey,
so what do we say?
Buddy.
All right, you good? All right, see you in a minute. All right, take care now.
It's me talking to actual children. Like, you just something where you don't have practice and you go, so, hey, what do you do?
You like coloring books, huh?
Yeah, that's cool. I thought at this point, and I'm curious as to whether you did, Seahawks are on the board. It's pick number 16. We have seen a run of 14 offensive players and 1 defensive player, Leatu Latu. Dallas Turner is still available. All the cornerbacks are still available. And one of the best remaining offensive linemen is still available. I wondered if they would trade back and if they would assume that that trend would stick and that, hey, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, we can still get Byron or we could still get Fautanu later. And by the way, the Steelers ended up taking Fautanu later. Like, that could have been an opportunity for them, but they didn't. Why?
I'd be lying to you if I said we didn't think about it, but the player was, he was just too good. He influences the game like a lot.
Would you have stayed put?
Yeah, I would have stayed put. Again, we saw 6 quarterbacks go. And once we saw all the quarterbacks go, then all these offensive guys going, in my head, I'm thinking they're going to get exactly who they want. We know they were not in the market for a quarterback, at least not seriously. Maybe if Michael Penix was there, they would take a look at him. There were rumors going around that the Saints and the Raiders and the Seahawks all tried to move up to grab Michael Penix. So that wasn't going to happen. But no, I thought they were going to stay put, and I thought they should because of those 2 names that were still left on the board. I go, look, you can get your offensive lineman or your defensive lineman stay put, and that's exactly what they did. And I'm glad that they did because I think that Byron Murphy is going to cause chaos in that box, and that is exactly what you need. This team was one of the worst against the run last year. You have to address that. Byron Murphy is going to help you out.
John Schneider said they had 4 opportunities to move, but Murphy remained the best defensive player on their board, so they didn't want to. He also had a comp that Seahawks fans are really going to like.
Yeah, I mean, people, it's not Aaron Donald, but he tested like that, I mean, he's got that compact style about him, but he can, slow down, John. He's a Hall of Famer, I get it. You're like you're asking for it's just the body type, you know what I mean? Like, getting off the ball and, I mean, his, all these statistics we have now, all this analytic stuff, like, his explosive rate, like he gets to the quarterback quicker than anybody. So he's got the ability to jump off the ball and get upfield, and he can play edges, he can play square. He can rush the passer inside. He gets up and down the line of scrimmage. The body type comparison, obviously, Aaron Donald's phenomenal.
John Schneider saying, look, I'm not being insane. I'm not saying that we have absolutely drafted a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer, but they have similar body types. Both were critiqued for being a little bit undersized. They've got explosiveness. Do you see that comp?
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to body type, when it comes to explosiveness, and then really just the hands. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen video of Aaron Donald training with knives or something like that, just doing all this, this martial arts type stuff. Him and Brittany, same camp. I'm sure you've seen that. When I watch Byron Murphy play, I imagine him having some knives in his hand, just slicing dudes up because that's how quick his hands are, man. He understands the leverage. He understands the flow of the offensive line. He can anticipate what these offensive linemen are trying to do. He's a savvy football player, as savvy as you can get in the trenches where there's a lot of things happening within close quarters, right? When you are safety, you see the game differently. Everything's in front of you. You have the panoramic view of what's going on. When you are a defensive lineman in the box, you got the portrait. It is right there, and you kind of got to feel what's going on to your left and your right, and based off of what the offensive linemen are doing, anticipate some things. He does exactly that. He's great at what he does. I think they said, look, the type of player he is comparable to what they wanted Puna to be, right? Puna was compact, but Puna, love my guy Puna. I'm not hating on Puna. Puna was just a bit more fluffy. You know what I'm saying? Like Byron Murphy is solid as a rock. This dude is explosive. So you're at that position. It's okay to be a bit shorter because you're going to get some leverage, get under the pads of these offensive linemen. But if you can pick a guy like Byron Murphy, who is compact, but not as fluffy, rock solid, getting comps to Aaron Donald, good for you. Not saying he's going to be all that, but wouldn't it be nice for these guys to finally find a defensive lineman that they signed to a second contract?
It would be nice for these guys to finally take a big step forward in the trenches. The thing is, we kind of assumed it would be on the other side of the ball in terms of pick number 16. I'm not mad that they took a defensive lineman, but they don't have an immediate need there. They've got Leonard Williams. They've got Dre Jones. They've got Jaron Reed. They've got some depth pieces there. When you were looking at the pick of Byron Murphy and kind of thinking, look, there's still big question marks with the interior of the offensive line. You sacrifice that to take this guy. What do you think, if you're putting yourself in the mind of John Schneider, makes that worth it? You know what? I'm going to pass on this offensive line because, even though I don't have an immediate need, the depth that I can add here. Is it a depth thing? What do you see?
I think they brought in some pieces on that offensive line with some veterans, and they are going to allow those guys to compete. I still think they pick up an offensive lineman in this draft.
Yeah,
I think they looked at this situation and said, where do we need the most help? Me personally, I was on the other side. I'm thinking, all right, let's bolster up this offense right now with this number 16 pick because these guys are going to lead the charge. They flipped it and looked at it differently. So what needs to improve right now? It is stopping the run and getting to the quarterback, and Byron Murphy is going to help you do that. So I think they're looking at the offense and saying, all right, we can wait on that. We can wait till day 2, round 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, because we have enough there, and they probably believe in the veterans that they brought in. This guy, Byron Murphy, is going to be in the rotation right now. And that's the thing about defensive linemen, too, is they don't have to play every single snap. You bring in a rookie offensive lineman, Troy Fautano, and you move him to guard. You're going to expect him to play every snap. You're going to need him to play every snap. That's not the case with Byron Murphy. He can ease his way in there. But offensive linemen, you don't want to have that rotation going. You don't want – and remember last year there was at some point we were praising them for their rotation. Like, man, this offensive line is playing so well, and they're rotating all these guys in. Then we get later on in the season, we're like, it's the rotation.
It was coping.
They're messing everything up. There's no cohesion with this offensive line. So defensive line is a bit different. You can rotate guys in and have them develop.